Hey everyone, this is Matt Stoner and I'm joined here with Michelle, another designer from Neuron. We're a multidisciplinary design agency with a strong focus on user experience located in the heart of San Francisco. And we serve clients here in Silicon Valley as well as in New York City and beyond. So we've done a lot of projects across several industries and mediums. We like to say we can help a startup go from an idea to an MVP, or we can bring fresh perspectives to industry leaders looking to refresh or grow their product offering and features. So some of the things we've worked on are a first of its kind social fitness mobile application called Vital, together with Crowd Media and Altpoint Capital. We designed a web platform to build a culture of camaraderie and competition by gamifying the sales process for an enterprise client. And we've also even designed the choreography for a robot's presentation at CES in Las Vegas. So yes, this robot can actually deliver you beer while you sit on your couch. About a year ago, we started hosting these monthly meetups where we talk UX and drink beer. And our goal is to build a group of designers to share experiences, our design challenges, vent about struggles, and support one another in our careers. So we encourage anyone watching this, if they're in the Bay Area, to join our meetup group, and we'll include links to that at the end. We like to bring interesting ideas to our presentations, whether it's our process as an agency or just general aspects of UX for newcomers to the industry. So we're going to run through a quick presentation that we gave at our last meetup on the topic of UX and UI trends for 2019. So let's jump right in.
All right, let's start with voice. So, what began as Apple's Siri in your pocket has become Amazon's Alexa and Google's Home, allowing you to turn off the lights, play your favorite playlists, and reorder dog food from, again, the comfort of your couch. But the exploding voice interface market is actually expanding to industries of all kinds, from healthcare to banking. And the race is on right now to do way more than just tell you the weather. We think the biggest opportunity is search. Why navigate through the many layers of your Google Drive when you can just say, open the Beer and UX Meetup presentation? So yeah, we think interest and investment in voice interface is going to continue to expand throughout 2019 and beyond.
So next we have happier thumbs. So as we all know, our phones have gotten huge and design has started to respond over the last few years.
Yeah, it's become standard in most apps for the search bar to live up at the top of the screen. Think Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, the list goes on. And with the release of more new, larger than my hands can hold devices, a search bar all the way up at the top of the screen is really hard to reach, especially for those 49% of one-handed users. But designers are starting to kind of break the mold. So Lyft recently moved their search bar to what many designers call the sweet spot, right under where your thumb rests. And that makes me wonder if we've been placing it at the top just because some of the bigger names did first. But I really think the most used elements should be in that sweet spot.
Yeah, and essentially, this design for a comfort trend we think is going to continue unless Apple, like many have rumored, are going to start coming back with these smaller phones. They've started to test the waters in the market to see if that's what consumers are after, and it's looking like more and more like they might start to release the smaller phones that we've seen in the past. Number 3, supersized text. So as I like to say, trends typically follow Apple's lead. And last year we saw things like strong gradients infiltrate our web and mobile experiences after the iconic iPhone X was released, or iPhone 10. It was plastered on billboards above the 101. Their website featured this really large, bold slug text. And they even reinvigorated their UI with larger titles and headers on things, much to the point where we've never seen before. And what it did was create more of a strong contrast between the typography that was being used in their UI, and I think it also makes it more accessible to users that might be a little bit older and not have as great of eyesight. We also saw this mobile-first approach kind of take over as a buzzword over the last year or two, in that the design process was essentially to start on mobile and then be translated to our larger desktop screens. And with that, a lot of the time we just saw the text being scaled. And what that did was just basically blow up the text from mobile to the web, and we'd have this really large slug text on pages that featured maybe just a minimal graphic and a call to action. So, also as we see more simplified menu choices on our landing pages and clearer narratives on site, we're seeing bigger text thrive due to the lack of clutter. So brands can be very impactful with their messaging directly on the homepage.
All right, number 4, broken grids. So broken grids are one of my favorite trends that are happening into 2019, and they can really help differentiate a site and let some savvy users know that the designers aren't using a template. They really allow brands to add visual interest to otherwise sometimes very text-heavy pages. Times Talks, for example, uses different typefaces and sizes on each of their featured speaker screens, which really allow a lot of uniqueness and engaging experiences as you toggle through their speakers. They allow the text to overlap the image whenever it needs to, and the style changes as you go. But in some cases, we do have to be careful we don't push it too far, because sometimes the desire to be unique can take away from the functionality a little bit.
Number 5, experimental navigation. So here we're seeing more and less types of experimental navigation trends depending on the product, the audience, and the goals of the business behind them. So to highlight that, I have 2 examples here. So if you want to drive engagement and purely entertain, we see an example like Adult Swim's site to explore their featured music singles. It's meant to be more of an immersive, explore at your own will, choose your own adventure experience, as opposed to quickly finding what you're looking for. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Netflix, for example, wanted users to spend less time browsing endlessly for what to watch. So it's a lot of different strategy from Adult Swim's trying to get you engaged and really feel immersed in the content and really explore it. But with Netflix, there was a clear business goal behind what they were doing. They wanted users to spend less time browsing, when at one time browsing was really their novelty, and showing off the breadth of content converted casual users into fans and advocates. But as they matured, they reworked their navigation to be less experimental. They brought back the side navigation for categories, focused on presenting recommendations based on their complex matching algorithm, as opposed to just showing off their endless list of content. So 2 altering strategies there for experimental navigation.
All right, number 6 is a personal favorite of mine. We're going back in time and seeing the resurgence of 70s retro tones once again. We see this trend, we've seen it quite a bit in 2018, and I think it's going to be continuing through 2019 as we climb toward peak mid-century modern. We know what goes around comes around in style and fashion. If you follow fashion, Gucci and Fendi are really forwarding this with their ad campaigns right now. And we can see this nostalgia re-emerging in all of our interfaces too. The novelty of the latest technology innovation is sort of wearing off, and we're getting a lot more cozy and homey again.
Yeah, we saw minimalism take over the past few years, and now we're seeing this comfort design and warmth moving in. We've seen a general lack of customer trust with a lot of tech products over the last year or so, so it's only natural that a return to what makes us feel more human is having a moment right now. So analog vibes, that's kind of picking up on the same idea of warmth and nostalgia. So the incorporation of illustration and collage into both enterprise and general consumer-facing products makes me happy because I come from an illustration background. But this is a result of some of the factors I brought up in the last trend, because we're seeing a resurgence of this hand-drawn, really personalized artwork that tugs at the nostalgia in adults who grew up on the internet can kind of connect to a time before everything was digital and flat UI. Every part of our lives today is digital, and reminders of the past and these analog concepts, in some sense, are helping us deal with our lives on screen. So, we can see Intercom's use of this analog kind of scrappy sketch style. We see Medium going back to this collage style, which helps differentiate itself today when we have a lot of just simple vector illustration concepts. And then this campaign in yellow was from, what was it, Michelle? MailChimp's campaign. So we're seeing this really break through into mainstream enterprise products. Animated feedback. So the constraints that face design and code are slowly being stripped away, and as designers we can basically create anything we want without a lot of the concerns for page refreshing, load times, and a lot of the constraints that we had in the past. Although those do exist, they're less of an issue today. So animated feedback provides the design polish that really separates great digital products from the pack. So we all have those apps that we love to use because they provide quick animated feedback that lets you know that the action has been processed, or that it understood your input. It helps build trust that the product is functioning correctly and as intended. So an example I like to use here is if you ask a friend subtly if you want to go to lunch while you're sitting across from them, and if they just stared back at you, that would be very confusing, right? You wouldn't know if they understood you, if they wanted to go, if they were mad at you. We kind of crave the immediate response and feedback to show that we were heard and that our communication was successful. And a quick bit of animated feedback is like the equivalent of that head nod or a thumbs up or a yep, like I heard you, I grasped what you said, and I'm giving you my quick feedback on that.
Next is deep flat. So I read a fantastic article about deep flat being the new flat. And as I was reading it, I was sort of thinking to myself, oh wow, it really did. Designers are really starting to push flat design using illustration, grain effects, tons of layered elements, and they're making all the flat design a lot less sterile, a lot more relatable, especially when they're combining it with motion.
Right, and we see it as kind of a rebellion or the natural evolution of flat and material design UI that has dominated by becoming the standard with Google and Android. So, with simplicity mixed with elements of the third dimension and abstract spatial relationships like we're seeing on the right, though it's not skeuomorphic, though you couldn't exactly call it flat, it's kind of in this intermediate area that we like to call deep flat. And we see this continuing as a trend. We didn't forget about those aspects of UX like augmented reality that are really starting to surge in popularity and investment this year. We just chose the 10 that were most associated with the projects that we were working on at the time. So that brings us to the concept of value as a trend. So what we don't see as being something that changes is that designers really still can't agree on what to call themselves. We see UX designer, experience designer, product designer. We're also struggling to define our processes and methodologies to those not in the industry. And I mean, this year we saw DevOps come out of nowhere, probably in response to DevOps, but what is that? So the notion that design is valuable to business really continues to see adoption. It's been proven in recent years that the impact that design has on the bottom line is only growing. And companies are paying attention to the ways that design can create advocates out of their customers through seamless, joyful experiences. Designers are really starting to feel appreciated, even reveled, when once design was really thought of as the icing on a dev-centric product approach. It was an afterthought. In this October 2018 McKinsey & Company quarterly, they studied the impact of design on business growth and revenue. So in the quote, companies with top quartile McKinsey Design Index scores outperformed industry benchmark growth by as much as 2 to 1. We really see the impact that design's having on the bottom lines of these companies. So, when we talk about UX, UI trends, it's easy to kind of get caught up in the fuss over what's popular at the time. But I really have a love-hate relationship with trends. You can't deny their general impact on the products that are in the market. I think whatever your stance on them is, it's important to understand them, even if that means that you're building a case against their usage in your product. In the end, our designs are pushed through or rejected by how we justify our decisions.
So, if you are located in the Bay Area, consider joining our growing Meetup group. We are now 400 members. Please come out for an event. We would love to meet you. If not, please connect with us on social media and on our website, neuronux.com. We love talking design, so if you have questions, have a project idea, leave us a comment or reach out to us directly at contact@neuronux.com.